Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests in the building.
Yes, sir.
We have Dave Mays, who he talked about the Source cover that we're
Come on,
right
man.
now.
Give Dave his credit. He's the founder of the Source magazine.
Of the Source magazine.
Okay, and co-founder of Hip Hop Weekly.
Absolutely.
Dave is you got to give Dave. If you being accurate with hip hop history, Dave is a legend. You got to give him his.
He is a legend.
You got to
Absolutely.
give him his stripes.
Absolutely. When it comes to hip hop, absolutely. He's created the Source magazine, which was a staple, and it's still a staple. And we have Khalif Rainey here.
Indeed.
Councilman from Milwaukee.
Yes, sir.
All right, now explain what you guys are here for and what you're trying to do for Milwaukee.
Well, earlier this year, I was contacted by Alderman Rainey. He was telling me about his concept for the Hip Hop Week, and I got really excited about it for a number of reasons. I mean, it's the first city in America to ever create a week actually officially backed by the city, devoted to hip hop, the culture, celebration, but also as far as demonstrating how hip hop can be force in the community. And I think that's something that hip hop kind of got away from. It was part of our DNA as the movement and the culture grew in the 80s and the 90s, and we kind of got away from that. And his vision to bring it back, I think, is really powerful. And then he could tell you a little bit more about the city of Milwaukee and why that's such an interesting place to do something like this, because of statistically, you know, there's a lot of things about Milwaukee that people don't realize. You don't hear about a lot in the conversation, but it's pretty much one of the worst cities for black people in America by far on every statistic that you could, measure.
Yeah, it's one of the most segregated cities, right?
It's one of the most segregated. I saw Angela Rye on the show not too long ago. She discussed we have the highest incarceration rate of African-American men in the country. That's actually in the zip code in which I represent.
Wow.
We have one of the largest disparities between income between the white family and the black family, educational gap between the black student and the white student. So when you talk about government, you often hear that cliche about let's meet people where they're at. And that's really what we're doing with this platform. I know there's a bunch of people in the community who are apolitical, who are disenchanted with government. So what I'm trying to do is take the platform of hip hop and engage them in conversations about their health, about their finances. DJ Envy, who'll be coming out to do a workshop on real estate investing and financial endeavors that we could partake in. So we're really just taking the platform beyond celebrating the culture. We want to put the medicine in the peanut butter, so to speak, and get people to think differently about, those issues.
Why did you feel like a movement like hip hop? Hip Hop Week was the first course of action that needed to be taken for these, things like segregation and incarceration. Why that?
Well, honestly, I just really wanted to kick it for a week. I saw Fashion Week going on. I saw all these, and I was like, man, we need a Hip Hop Week, right? And then my wife was like, yo, you gotta make sense of it, right? And when I really started looking at it, the parity between, finances, hip hop is all about talking about our money, how to get our money right. And I saw With the Health by Quincy Jones III, and I saw different personalities within hip hop that really made me think twice about, my health. Before that, it really didn't resonate. So for me personally, I think that it just makes those conversations more palatable for our generation and for our community. So this is year 2. Last year we had Kool Herc, he came out. We had Ghostface. We had a bunch of personalities that really created a lot of excitement in the city, because Milwaukee's not really a city that's known for hip hop.
I love Milwaukee, man.
Yeah, I saw Bailey Coleman was mentioned in your book.
Shout out to Bailey Coleman. Yeah. Shout out to Bailey Coleman.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I've always had some great times in Milwaukee. I actually I was out there filming Catfish for like a week.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah, and we was in the club. That was
one of the best episodes too. I love that episode.
Thank
and you'll be back on the 12th, right, with Styles P for the mental health fair with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boom. I am.
Indeed.
Yeah, Dave Mays called and he reached out and was like, he told me what he was doing. And, a lot of times we don't get a chance to get to Milwaukee. It's one of those markets, it's a smaller market, but it's like it's so many of us there. Absolutely. So when he called and said, let's do this financial literacy class and talk about real estate and help some of the brothers out there that might not know their way in, because most people when they hear real estate, they think they need a lot of money to put down, but there's so many different ways and so many different grants and so many different ways around getting, but Milwaukee's also a market where the prices of houses are so cheap that you can actually purchase something and rent it out. Like, real estate in Milwaukee, what is it going for roughly ballpark for a one family in a decent area?
I mean, it all depends, and that's one of the missions of Hip Hop Week. So as a common council member, we come into possession of properties that become
the cities as a result of property tax foreclosure.
City owned.
Yeah, so I want to bring those city departments, whether it's the health department, whether it's the real estate department, the Office of Violence Prevention. I'm trying to bring those agencies to the table and really make the community engage with them. So, I mean, the city of Milwaukee right now, we're undergoing somewhat of a renaissance with the building of the Fiserv Forum. I know you guys saw the Bucks almost make it to the championship. We was close. You know, but in some areas, you know, there's issues of gentrification, like many other places in the country. But then we also have our challenge in distressed neighborhoods where you can get some property at a very small amount. And I can show you those opportunities when you come to the city as well.
My mortgage lender just told me last week that Milwaukee's a great place to invest.
Absolutely.
Just
it's a great place on the Great Lake.
I would love to do it kind of like what Detroit did for, you know, people who live in that area. They give them to them for a way cheaper price, so that way they just have to fix it up to start rebuilding Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
And that's what we'll talk about in some of that stuff. And I would love that list to possibly give to some of the people that come to that seminar, come to that workshop, so they can start looking and preparing for themselves to start buying up Milwaukee. You know,
I know my colleagues would love to say, you know, DJ Envy is invested in my district. That brings a lot of cachet to the city.
And Milwaukee was the first V100.7, first station to syndicate the Breakfast Club.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
First station. Yep.
Salute to Bailey.
Shout out to Bailey.
The very first station to syndicate the Breakfast Club.
What are some other events that are going to be happening during that week?
So beyond DJ Envy coming and joining us at G's Clippers to discuss financial literacy, we got Stickman from Dead Prez. He has a book out right now talking about being healthy and being vegan and lifting weights. And we also have Scarface, who's running for Common Council in the city of Houston.
My guy Face.
Yes, indeed. He's going to explain the nexus between politics and hip hop. You know, we're rapping about criminal justice reform, but how do we really take it to the next level and start supporting candidates who reflect the things that we want to see within government and really change our country?
Now, how you connecting with the younger generation with that, though? Because I love Scarface. I love Stickman and Dead Prez, but I'm 41.
Yeah, we got a bunch of activities that's really been taken on by the community. You know, Washington Park Wednesdays. We got a bunch of events. Just the umbrella Hip Hop Week alone made the community excited and want to get involved. So we got a variety of offerings that's going to speak to the young and the old.
We also have artists like Megan Thee Stallion and Kevin Gates involved as part of the Hip Hop Museum pop-up that I'm doing out there. We have 3 nights of big events. Megan is the opening night. And, you know, I really like her because she's one of these young artists that actually does have something to say when it comes to issues. Particularly, she's been speaking out a lot about environmental issues and the beach cleanup that she did and things of that nature.
Yeah, y'all should be leading with the Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
That should be on the front of the flyer.
And you guys have an event for women also, right?
Yeah, we have a Women of Hip Hop event taking place at the Marcus Performing Arts Center. A bunch of local artists will be, you know, replicating those songs that we love. It's called Ladies
exciting.
First. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the whole purpose is to try to figure out how do we bridge and connect the older and the younger generations, because to me that's one of the biggest challenges and obstacles we have is that we've become divided and, you know, by forces that have sort of separated us. And if we can figure out how to connect back together, we could be really powerful, in particular with the Hip Hop Goes to the Polls event, which is on Saturday at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society. So it's Scarface and the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes, who's the first black man ever to hold that position in that state. But when you look at the demographics of 18 to 55-year-olds in America, that represents over 60% of the electorate in next year's election. And if you think about people between 18 and 55, it's easily the vast majority have grown up on hip-hop, listening to the music, but also being influenced by the culture. So there's an undercurrent of between that 60% of America that all share a certain perspective based on, you know, the influence of hip hop. And if we can get that current going, I mean, think of the power that 60% demographic holds and all the people that love hip hop. If we got together and stood up for the issues that we want, I mean, basically my slogan is, you know, the hip hop nation holds the Trump card in 2020 if we can get organized.
We don't want to say Trump card. Let's come up with another term for that. You know, Dave, why do you think you never got the Culture Vulture label?
Culture Vulture label?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because, you know, because of my actions and what I did. I mean, the source was always just, you know, the most authentic media outlet, and it was never just about money. It was always about the culture and the streets. And I always, that was what I took pride in, was being able to balance those things. And a lot of times, as we've all experienced going into the corporate world with hip hop, even though hip hop has become, what it's become today, there's still a resistance to it. There's still a resistance to the streets and the street element and things like that. And I always embraced that and understood that comes, with the territory. And that's where hip hop comes from. So you can't turn your back on the streets. And, that's just me growing up in Washington, D.C., just observing, things from a young age and just having that mentality. I started at Harvard, Source was born out of my dorm room as a one-sheet newsletter while I was hosting a radio show on Harvard's radio station that was playing all classical music at the time. Just all those reasons, man. I loved hip hop and saw a vision back then of a generation of Black, white, Latino, Asian, everybody that, in the 80s we had that going and where it could go. And, it's the world we're in today is what I kind of envisioned back then.
You still speak to Benzino?
I haven't spoke to him in a few years.
Really?
I decided to take some time off maybe about 3 years ago, moved back home to D.C., had some family things, and just decided to regroup, start something fresh and new. So I have Dave Mays Media now. That's my new company. This is one of the first ventures to partner with the city of Milwaukee on the Hip Hop Week, and then the Hip Hop Museum pop-up that I mentioned before. I hooked up with a guy in D.C. who had put an incredible collection of hip-hop artifacts and memorabilia together, Jeremy Beaver, and we created this Hip Hop Museum. It's the world's first hip hop museum. It's a pop-up. It's going to travel around the country and embrace, not just the national, but also the local hip-hop in every city, because in every city, Milwaukee, D.C., everywhere, there's a history of people who have contributed to the culture, whether you know them outside that city or not. They've been loyal to the culture and done a lot for it. So the pop-up, Hip Hop Museum pop-up is part of the idea, is to be able to recognize both the legends that we all know and the people on the local level who've been contributing to the culture. So all that's under Dave Mays Media. This is kind of the new movement for me. Start over fresh, same way, I started with the Source. It was me, my ideas, and just looking to build the next phase of the legacy. I see a lot of opportunity out here.
Do you see this going to other cities?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, especially with the platform that Milwaukee has given us with the Hip Hop Week. I see the whole concept traveling to other cities after people see what we accomplish next week in Milwaukee.
There's no beef between you and Benzino, though, right?
No, I mean, we parted, and like I said, I'm doing my own thing, and it's really just about me and just me trying to start some new things, fresh things, and kind of get back to a way of going about things that that's just my own vision of things, and that's how I started, and that's what I'm trying to do with the Dave Mays Media.
And not shitting on Benzino, but I always wanted to know, when you guys partnered up, a lot of people felt that he had too much influence on the magazine and it was hurting the integrity of the magazine at one time. Did you ever believe that? Did you ever regret that? Because I know a lot of his, I guess him being so outspoken created beef with you guys, with Eminem at the time, with 50 at the time, and a lot of the labels. Do you ever believe that? Do you ever regret any of that?
Well, I mean, let me say this. I mean, I started the Source when I was, like I said, when I was at Harvard. Benzino had a rap group up in Boston at the time that was one of the most that was Almighty RSO.
Almighty RSO,
yeah. That was the most popular group in the city, and I met him through my radio show, and we became friends. And the Source went on. He wasn't involved in the Source for many years, but that was my friend. I was helping them as I could with their music, and it was maybe 8-10 years later that I actually brought him into the Source in the mid-'90s and made him a partner with me in the company. So, I think a lot of people, I mean, there was a lot of things that happened that, probably could have been handled differently or better. But at the end of the day, a lot of the issues that I was personally fighting for, remain, as far as the integrity of the music and the integrity of the culture, and trying to keep that authentic as we go forward. And I think we hit a point, all myself included, in the mid to late 90s, where hip hop sort of became just very commercialized after radio started playing it, corporate radio and everything, and many different factors. It became very much money driven, and that's when the culture started to be forgotten about and some of the other aspects of it. But I kind of realized that in the last 5 years or so, I was at the Source, was like, we got to really bring this back to what hip hop is about. And a lot of those, disputes, the Eminem thing really had to do with a difference of opinion about those types of things. And it got perceived as being personal. And maybe it did get personal, and some things, could have been handled better. But we live and we learn. And, I'm here now and trying to, rebuild something bigger and better than I did before.
Now,
I heard they're
T-Pain was
doing a
here.
documentary on The Source.
Say it again?
I heard that they're working on a documentary.
Oh, yeah?
about The
Who's that?
Source. I don't know that I've been hearing that.
She's
info
not
all the time.
Not involved.
I definitely have heard about it.
I have some things in the works, but I've heard rumors, people have been trying to do. I mean, this an incredible story of The Source.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coming from a single-page newsletter to what it represented, and then, me creating the Source Awards, starting that in '91 on Yo MTV Raps, and then building it up into what that became. So, there was a lot of...
You breezed by that as if the Source Awards was not responsible for so many historic moments in hip hop. Like everybody pinpoints what is the '94 Source Awards now? Or was it '95?
'95 was a Suge
95, the
and
Suge,
Puff.
and, yeah.
Suge and
But
Puff,
not
yeah.
just Suge and Puff. That's when Andre 3000
Yeah,
got on that
absolutely.
stage
Right.
and said the South got something to say. South took off after that. Like,
that was big. And again, for people sometimes overlook this. I mean, that was me, and that was the Source, recognizing Outkast when in an environment where it was all New York and nobody was really messing with the South. But the Source, I went out of my way. That's another reason I would say, too, to your earlier question. Like, from the beginning, I was not caught up in, like, a New York bias, that really was prevalent and even maybe still somewhat till today. But I went out of my way to make sure that we represented hip-hop across the country. And the purpose of the Source Awards was to celebrate the culture, but also to bring the hip-hop world together in one room. And I was a person that had those relationships with the Jay Princes and the Master P's and the Suge Knights and all the different players involved, the Diddy's, everybody that could bring everybody together in one place for a common purpose. And that's in a sense what I'm trying to bring back in Milwaukee. I'm actually launching the Hip Hop Legacy Awards in Milwaukee next Friday night. And that'll be the first award show I've done. And it is honoring the legends, so it's, not as much incorporating the younger. We have Benny the Butcher that's going to be there performing. We have a couple other younger folks that are involved to kind of create that bridge, like I said. And that's the struggle and the challenge is how do we get that bridge and get some respect to where, these younger artists actually want to be in the Hip Hop Legacy Awards and want to be recognized in their future as they get bigger, not just thinking about now, but what it means and where, where you could be with your career going forward.
we can ask Dave this question. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say when T-Pain was here, he talked about having $40 million in the bank and then losing it all.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever lose it all?
Oh yeah, I mean,
What was at your highest? What did you have? What what did you have?
Well, I mean, I owned the Source 100%, okay, for many, many years until I invested heavily into the .com. That was really the downfall for me at the Source was when I invested heavily in the late 90s into the .com. I really saw, a vision of the digital world and being able to reach the hip-hop fans all over the planet Earth and, unite them. And that was why I got excited, but I was early.
What was it called?
Source.com. Source.com, yeah. But I opened up new offices, hired new people, and it was very early before there was really any type of money being able to be generated from the internet. Mm-hmm. So that kind of, was sort of the setback of putting the company in debt. But I mean, the company was, was worth quite a large sum of money, probably, I would say between 70 to 100 million people had estimates, and I had different offers to sell it along the way. Never sold it. Took some private equity investors and ended up in the end basically losing everything. I started over from scratch when I finally lost the Source. But again, it was when you're an entrepreneur, you got to take risks, and that's what happens. But
do you regret not selling it back then?
No, I mean, I don't live my life with regrets. I don't regret that. I mean, it's easy to look back now. Oh, I could have had 50 million or whatever in the bank or whatever. But I believed in what I was doing, and I took that risk, and I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? And I still think what I can do going forward is going to be even greater and worth even more, because the digital world. The beautiful thing about this digital world is, even though all media is struggling, okay, in this digital media environment, there's there's no business model that's working for people, but it's leveled the playing field, meaning that these huge conglomerates, the Viacoms and all these companies that's worth, hundreds of billions of dollars, they're basically, just, you can compete with them. If you have the right idea right now, the world, it's wide open, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what I see, and I still see big opportunities, and that's what I'm planning to come with behind all this stuff, with the next phase for Dave Mays Media.
What's your opinion of digital impact on industry news? Like, do you prefer the days of research and distribution, or do you like just the accessibility of the internet?
I think, I like the way it is now. That's just the way of the world. You have to adapt to that. So I like, the speed of things and being able to find out information. Of course, we're suffering from accuracy, but, in a certain sense, I think that was, the media world has always held up this image of being, we're just about authenticity or the independence, and it's always really been driven by advertising dollars. It's a lot more, I think, apparent today than it was. I think we just got to find a way to organize it and provide some credibility and get back to the days where, a New York Times meant what it meant. Even that is my point. Like, they don't mean the same thing in the world as they once did. Everybody's kind of veneer has come off in this world for one reason or another and kind of been exposed. But, hopefully we can find some credible journalistic outlets that can grow in the future and provide that for people.
Do you still have great relationships with people that you work with in the past? Like, you can call anybody up and be like, look, we got this week coming up in Milwaukee, this hip hop week. I need you to be down and help support this and help it grow.
Well, you can ask this gentleman. I think I've proven to him, with the week I put together, some of the talent that I lined up.
I'm surprised Dave still got the same number when he called. I'm like, shoot, this still amazing. I ain't speak to you in 6 years.
I don't talk to everybody as much, of course, as I used to, but I always had great relationships, and I helped a lot of people. Almost everybody you could name in hip hop, I helped them at the starts of their careers, whether they were artists, whether they were business people. I always, was about supporting young people and, their businesses and empowering them in ways, that I could, whether it was free advertisement or anything else I could do, giving the people coverage in a magazine that deserved coverage, even though nobody else would have covered them because they didn't have any money to pay for it or whatever. So, I have a lot of relationships still, people that just respect me for, how I ran my business at the source.
It's rare for people to remember that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. In this industry, a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah, because Envy didn't forget, which is amazing, right, Envy?
Now, well, Dave hits me, I say every 5-6 years, but like I said,
every 5 or 6 years.
No, but when I started out, he helped me. He put me in the source as a DJ. When I did my album, I didn't have big budgets to promote my album. They helped me out. So when he calls, you answer the phone and you do what you can. So, but yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that. That's love.
I want to ask you guys.
I want to ask Dave one last question because he lived it when Glasses Malone was here. All right, Glasses said from this 4-year period from 1992 to 96. Snoop Dogg was a bigger star than Tupac, and it wasn't even close. It's that 4-year span from 92 to 96.
No, maybe in 92, but by 96, Pac was much bigger star. Snoop was huge too, but Pac was bigger to me by 95, 96. Certainly when he got on Death Row, that took him up, but even before that, he was huge before that. Snoop came out huge coming off the Chronic and then his debut album, but to me, he sort of lulled a little bit after that, and Pac really, to me, was the man. Those last few years of that period there, I would say.
What about before he signed to Death Row?
Pac. The album right before. He was huge before he went into jail. That was when his career was taking off, and he was a superstar. And and that was before Death Row. So he was there, those last 2 years, and then he was really only on Death Row like a year.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. Give them information on how, if they want to be involved, or if they want to get involved, sponsor or attend the events, how they can do that.
Yeah. Well, we got the website, hiphopweekmke.com. You can go check out the schedule of everything going on. All the events that I'm doing are at the Rave. So you can go to therave.com if you want to come out to the Megan Thee Stallion, Kevin Gates, the Hip Hop Legacy Awards, or to see the Hip Hop Museum. That's an incredible experience, to have that for hip hop. Anyone that grew up on hip hop, it's awesome to be able to walk through a museum and see all these things that remind you of different periods in your life. And we've never had a hip hop museum. People have been talking about it for many, many years, and there may be others coming in the future, but this is something that's actually up and running right now that travels and people can come and see it and experience it. So I think that's a highlight as well of the week in Milwaukee.
Well,
we got gifts. Hold on, we got gifts.
Big on T-shirts over here at the Breakfast Club, so I want to make sure I bought y'all.
Okay.
The 2019 Hip Hop Week MKE T-shirt. I got one for all y'all.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank
my
you so
brother.
much.
Appreciate
Also
you.
follow me at the Real Dave Mays and at Dave Mays Media on IG.
Okay. Well, it's Dave Mays. It's Khalif Rainey. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.